Chevy is called the heartbeat of America for a reason. With SUVs made to move with your rhythm. The versatile Equinox tackles your entire day. The spacious Traverse fits your crew and your whole weekend. And Trax brings style with value you can count on. All infused with tech that has your back, so your drive always hits the right chord. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
This summer, say I do.
I am marrying a stranger.
Like never before.
Am I crazy?
It's a whole new Married at First Sight on Peacock.
Thank God I woke up in love.
With new experts.
My name is Dr. Lisa.
My name is Paul Brunson.
More couples.
This could be the start of a very successful marriage.
And more surprises.
Or maybe not.
Everything is just not enough.
You're a little bit crazy.
I don't know what's gonna happen. I want my fairy tale ending.
Married at First Sight. Streaming July 12th. Only on Peacock.
Here we go. It's racing back once again. Sun still shining. The sun hasn't disappeared, has it? It's coming up to the halfway stage in the MotoGP season, Julian, isn't it? And I think you think of the Sachsenring and that drive from the Autobahn through the woods up towards the present day circuit. It just feels so many secrets, so much is there, and yeah, it's a really, really special place, and it plays a massive part in the history of Grand Prix motorcycle racing and the Cold War. I mean, it is an incredible story.
Yep.
The man who knows about it more than anybody else. I'm so pleased he's agreed to join two old farts that are long out of a MotoGP paddock. Matt Oxley, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Harry. Hi, Jules. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, no, appreciate it.
Yeah,
right. Jules, off you go. Come on.
Well, I went to Sachsenring for the first time in year 2000. I think the second year Grand Prix went there. And the overwhelming impression I got that every shop in every village had something in the window relating to the heritage or the history of the area. You know, board games of the old Sachsenring, pictures of MZs, the car firms that made up Auto Union, the four rings, Wanderer, DKW, Hawk, and the other one who I can never remember.
Yeah, MZ.
And of course, MZ up the road in Jopau.
No, MZ weren't Audi, were they? They weren't. Anyway,
No,
so I'm getting confused.
DKW.
I know nothing about this story. DKW, there you go.
Yeah. And the engineering heritage of the area, and people were just so keen to remind you of what had happened there.
Yeah. No, they're very proud, and quite rightly so. And I love going to places where there is kind of history of motorcycling there as well, you know?
Absolutely.
You go to a new circuit that's just been built somewhere in the middle of nowhere that means nothing. And yeah, I mean, it might be a great circuit, but you lack that kind of
feeling
in the air. That stuff's been going on. I mean, I think Sachsenring, they first used that for racing in either 1926 or 1927, the old street circuit. And I mean, before we get on to Degner, Jimmy Guthrie was killed there in 1937. You go past on the way from the Autobahn to the circuit, you go past a little shrine to him. And Bill Ivey was killed there in 1969. And that's literally a few hundred yards away from where the circuit is, where he crashed on a left-hander. And they've got a tiny little shrine to him there as well. So there's all this kind of history, happy and not so happy,
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. And I suppose we inevitably come to MZ, who were made just up the road in Jopau.
Yeah.
And that astonishing era where they basically, a genius engineer, Walter Carden, put together, not from first principles, but from looking at lots of people's work, put together the modern two-stroke.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, the two-stroke was going nowhere until Carden arrived. I mean, people had raced them, but I mean, when he arrived in the 60s, late 50s, a two-stroke hadn't won a Grand Prix, I don't think, until he turned up. Maybe DKW, or was that afterwards? I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, he wrote the blueprint for the modern two-stroke.
Yes.
And, he didn't invent things, but he saw the expansion chamber, which I think some people had used. He saw the disc valve that some people had used. He saw the boost port, that transfer port that he saw some people had used, and he put them together and had absolutely no budget. He was basically, the MZ factory was stripped. Well, it was IFA before the war. It was stripped by the Allies. So they basically stripped, and fair enough, it was German. We're having everything you've got. A lot of it went to Russia, and they built a copy of the DKW 125. A lot of it went to Britain, where we built the Bantam 125, which was a DKW. And in the States, Harley built a 125 based on the DKW called the Hummer.
Really?
So it went everywhere, but what he was working in was just a kind of burnt out, blown up shell of a race shop. He didn't have dynos. He didn't, they got a dyno in the end, but an old racing journalist, Vic Willoughby, you might have met him. I think I met him,
certainly did. Yeah.
He passed a long, long time ago, but he visited Zschopau several times, I guess, when he was at the Sachsenring for the East German Grand Prix in the 60s, and just said what he was doing with the resources he had, he just couldn't believe it, So it's a real story of, or it's a story of everything, but of sort of triumph over adversity and of giant killing as well. I mean, their MZ's race budget, when they were fighting Honda in 60-61 was probably a 20th, a 50th of what Honda's was,
Yeah.
They had no modern carburation. They had no modern ignition systems. They had no high-tech materials. And I think I'm right in saying Carden made disc valves out of old saw blades.
Yeah, he did exactly. And he, they had no budget, so he used Joe Ehrlich a lot. Dr. Joe Ehrlich, he was an Austrian two-stroke engineer who escaped. Austrian Jews escaped to Britain in the 1937, just before Hitler arrived in Austria, and he came to Britain. He used to. Carden called him the scoundrel or something like that, because he would basically swap stuff with Carden. Carden would say, I need some forks. I don't have any Norton. I don't have any decent telescopic forks. So Ehrlich would give him a set of forks for some information or whatever. So it was all this kind of bartering system, Imagine running a race team like that now,
Jan Leake's book, the first book on the MZ racers, which is referenced in the beginning of Stilling Speed. I was involved with the production of that. And the only thing we had to take out on the advice of legal was Carden's opinions of Joe Ehrlich.
This summer, Prime Video takes you back before Legally Blonde, before law school, and into the world of Elle Woods in high school. Set in 1995, this Gemini vegetarian knows exactly who she is until her family moves from Bel Air to Seattle. Packed with iconic fashion, 90s nostalgia, and a throwback soundtrack, Elle proves one thing. Law school was hard. High school was harder. From the world of Legally Blonde, watch Elle, a new original series only on Prime Video. Watch now.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire, the no-show. Who set you back because they didn't show up on day one, or day two, or ever again. And now your product launch is delayed because you're talking to alien abduction podcasters to track them down. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can help make sure your next hire sticks. In fact, businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
It was still alive.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
yeah. No, exactly. I got the idea to write the book from reading Ray Battersby's book, Team Suzuki, which is one of the all-time greatest books on motorbike racing.
Yes.
Partly because Battersby worked for Suzuki for many, many years in their technical department. So he knew all the riders, he knew all the engineers, he knew all the mechanics. So it's a real insider story, and it's fantastic. And it goes into some detail on the whole Degner Carden thing. And I was like, whoa, that's a story. I need to write a book about it. But it took me about 10, 15 years to get around to it. But and it was one of those things that, the more you researched it, the madder it became.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a reflection of European politics at that point in history.
Yeah, it is.
Of the Cold War, the Berlin Wall, the paranoia and suspicion on both sides, and the unpleasant repression of the populations behind the Iron Curtain, which in East Germany was certainly tougher for the population than say
definitely
say Yugoslavia or somewhere, which was relatively
the Stasi was it's in the book, but how many people the Stasi had spying on people, because obviously there was Russia there, you had the KGB and people spying on the populace if anybody did something, but in and it was like, one agent per 100 people or something. In East Germany they had one agent per 6 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they would go in to every family pretty much, find somebody that was a bit, vulnerable and say, right, you are going to spy on your family for us, and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And if you don't, it'll be really bad for your family. Yeah. So a miserable time they had.
Yeah.
And you get done if, there was a giveaway, like your aerial for your TV was pointing the wrong way.
Yeah.
You were after a Western station,
Yeah.
So Degner came along. I think he worked as an engineer as well as a rider, didn't he?
No, he
had engineering knowledge. Perhaps.
He was a mechanic. So he was born in just in the early 40s, during the late stages of the war.
Yeah,
his dad died of a heart attack just at the end of the war, and then his mum died quite sooner of a heart attack. So he was, or something else maybe. So he was an orphan growing up in East Berlin when the Russians arrived.
Oof.
And had a pretty miserable childhood. Like so many kids then, used to watch motorbikes coming past and say, oh, I like them. So he trained as a mechanic and and then became a racer. So he had technical knowledge. He wasn't. I mean, as most riders did then, because motorbikes were so fragile then. If you didn't know how to look after them and look after the bits that were going to break, you wouldn't get beyond the first lap of most races.
Yeah. And obviously a very good motorcycle racer, and he brought MZ success, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he got better and better and better, and Walter Carden, who was the engineer, coming out with just the power output when he started of an MZ 125 was like 9 horsepower, I think. And by this is like in the early 50s, I think.
Yeah.
And by 61, it was 25 horsepower.
Ooh.
So I think it was the first normally aspirated, not supercharged or turbocharged engine to make 200 horsepower per litre, in 1961. And so, and he would obviously impart all his knowledge, because like I said, you needed to know all about carburation and jetting and how to look after one of these fragile two-strokes. And Degner was very good at it, and he was a good rider as well. And, it all built up. But what the thing was, Degner was, he would be looking at Jeff Duke turning up in his Jaguar and Mike Hailwood turning up in his, Porsche or whatever, and going, well, the way it worked in East Germany, everyone got the same wages. If you worked at MZ, everyone got the same wages. So he got the same wages as the guy who swept the floor. So did Walter Carden. And Degner obviously wasn't keen on this, and he was quite a kind of snappy dresser, or liked to be. And he was like, no, I want money. I want to wear nice clothes. I want to drive a nice car. And so he was looking for a way out. And sort of that's what led to the whole, him selling the secrets to Suzuki, Yeah.
Was he approached, or did he approach Suzuki?
No, he was approached. So Suzuki had a kind of a sort of Anglophile Japanese fixer called Jimmy Matsumiya, who approached Degner. And it happened in the Isle of Man was it either 1960 or 1961? So they literally met in, because it happened that just for some strange reason, Suzuki and MZ were staying in the same hotel.
Right.
So Matsumiya, Degner was a big jazz fan. He loved jazz music. And so he'd have a record in his room and buy some records and be playing records. So him and Matsumiya would meet in his because Degner had Stasi minders all the time.
Yeah.
You know, he might be able to get into his own bedroom on his own, but that was about it. You know, he'd have someone with him the whole time. They didn't want anybody, you know, they were already looking after their sports stars to make sure they didn't defect. And so Degner would go into his room, Matsumiya would come in and they'd turn up the record player with some jazz, which is obviously very frowned upon by the GDR anyway. And they thrashed out the plan, and it just kind of came. And, you know, it was. I mean, it's proper. It really is proper James Bond,
John
real life James Bond with motorbikes.
Thing,
you know,
Have you seen Bridge of Spies?
Yes, I think so. Yes,
which is about the Gary Power, the pilot on trial in Russia after his plane crash, blah, 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 and then exchange in Berlin.
He was exchanged, wasn't he? Yeah.
That film gets across very well the atmosphere that you're talking about now.
Sure.
That's for younger readers.
Yeah,
that's right.
And Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy as well.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you know.
Yeah. That's for us older readers.
Yeah.
So,
well, the most recent one was only made about 10 years ago with Edward Norton in it. No, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. It was only made like 10, 15 years ago. Right. It was great. Yeah.
When you read it, we're older, but the young people reading this now and reading your book just really can't believe it was like that, can they?
No.
I think we've been lucky with motorcycle racing. We've got a taste of going to places that have changed, but in some cases, like Brno, going there actually when it still was, the Cold War and everything else.
Yeah, the first time I went to Brno was 1988, so just a year before.
Yes,
that was the first year I was a MotoGP journalist, and you go to the Austrian
border and everything else,
and then you go to the middle in the no man's land, and they'd search your car completely. You had to change money, and then you got to the Czech border, which was bloody tanks and machine guns.
Yeah, it was
proper. It was proper. You know, it was serious stuff. But GDR. It was a mess. It was a mess.
61. There he was. I think he'd won 3 Grand Prix that year. Monza. He'd won at the Sachsenring, and he won Hockenheim. So he obviously won the West German Grand Prix. Probably and he was leading the World Championship. 2 rounds to go. He went to Sweden.
Yeah. So it was a very complicated. Very complicated defection, because what the GDR did, what East Germany did, they would let a sports star go abroad, but his family would have to stay at home.
Yeah.
So they're basically holding the families hostage. So Degner had to come up with a plan to get himself out and then get his family out.
Yeah.
So during the Swedish Grand Prix, it was all planned with this West German motorbike guy called Paul Petri, who bought this big American car, because you were still allowed to go through and back across it was because the Berlin Wall hadn't been built yet. It was about to be built. But he would go back and forth through Checkpoint Charlie with his big car, going to East German trade fairs and bringing stuff back. And basically, until all the border guards got to know him, and then they were basically pretty much, what are you doing? I've been to the trade fair, off you go. And what he was, this big American car, so he was very recognizable. Oh, it's that guy with the big American car. And then he built a false floor in the boot to get Degner's wife, and his 2 kids in there. And they were going to drug the kids, and his wife was so terrified, Gerda, that they drugged her as well. And then this guy, as soon as Degner got out of Sweden, he made the phone call, sort of with a code to, and Petri drove through the Checkpoint Charlie with the wife and kids drugged in the boot, and it all went perfectly. You know, I mean, if it hadn't, well, you know, it would have been vicious. But so he managed to defect, and basically, I think Suzuki paid him like $100,000, which was a lot of money then, to basically bring parts and drawings and all that kind of stuff with him. He brought pistons and disc valves to take them to Suzuki and say, here you go. And then Suzuki said, right, you've got to come to Japan to help us design this engine. So in a month or 2 later, he went to Japan and helped them design their first decent 2-stroke engine. And one of the things while I was writing the book, 2007 was the centenary Isle TT, and I needed somebody from Suzuki to admit that they'd stolen parts from MZ. Received stolen parts, right? So I'd arranged. I mean, you know, as a journalist, both of you know, sometimes you do have to be a bit sneaky, right, to get the result that you want to. And so Mitsuo Ito was on the Isle of Man.
Oh, right.
And I went over there, and so I'd said, "Oh, I want to do an interview about your early days racing and so on." And sort of halfway through the interview, one of the questions was like, "So did you know when the Degner thing? Did you bring back kind of parts from? Did you have MZ parts?" He said, "Yes, disc valves and and stuff like that." And you're just you're trying not to look excited. Yes, you've got it. You know, he said what you wanted him to say because quickly. I kind of needed that to be admitted by somebody from Suzuki. You know.
It's great. In Battersby's book, it's the subject is avoided, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I mean, Battersby's book is absolutely fantastic, but it's just a small. It's half a chapter in Battersby's book,
yes,
you know.
And
I found all the people like Degner's Suzuki teammate in 61, 62 was Frank Perez. And Frank Perez had married a German girl from Berlin called Rita. And so I went to see them, and they were just fantastic. They were quite good friends with Perez, with Degner, until he became a bit of a sort of peacock, once he got some money and he thought he was the man, And then I found through Gerda, I found who was that MV rider who's married? It was the brother-in-law of one of the sister-in-law of one of the MV riders, top MV riders, right? She spent the night with Degner while he was about to escape from his hotel in Sweden.
Really?
Because there's an old story that he blew up the engine on his
I was going to ask you.
That's just all nonsense. It's just all nonsense. It was much more complicated than that. So I interviewed her. She spent the night with him. Not in that way, spent the night with him, but they just sat there. You know, he was pretty terrified and she was trying to calm him down, and they were having a few drinks, and then the Suzuki guys sort of picked him up at dawn, and off they went to the border Denmark to claim asylum.
They went to Denmark, didn't they?
To Denmark, and then from Denmark, their ferry into Germany. And weirdly, Tommy Robb, another rider from the time, was on the same ferry on his way home from because I think he got concussed in practice or something, gone home.
Yeah.
So I found all these people that kind of linked up to kind of prove that this is how it really did happen. So I mean, I had a lot of fun. Well, a bit of stress and a lot of fun, and I had nobody to publish the book. I paid for it all myself. I went to Germany several times to interview MZ mechanics, other MZ people who'd worked with Degner. I went to Tenerife to interview Degner's widow and his son and all these people. And a lot of fun doing it because it was a proper, I love history as much as I love motorbikes. And it was just the, absolute, two things fitting together,
Yeah. And he didn't win the world championship because when the story was, I think he led for 2 laps, then the MZ blew up. That's right. And people suggested he did deliberately, which you absolutely say didn't happen.
No, I mean, it would, he obviously wanted to win the championship. Of course he did. And he wouldn't, and like I say, I've spoken to people that, he was still there that night. He didn't escape, that day. And so obviously MZ weren't going to give him a bite for the last couple of rounds. I think the last one was in Argentina, the first Grand Prix out of Europe, bizarrely.
Yes.
Just coincidentally.
Buenos Aires, yeah.
Yeah, Buenos Aires. And so you can imagine the chaos of people getting their bikes down there. And Joe Ehrlich offered to lend Degner one of his EMC 125s, which is a bit of a kind of copy of the MZ.
Yeah.
And it was going to go to New York from Heathrow to New York and New York to Buenos Aires, and it never left Heathrow.
Yeah.
Degner got to Buenos Aires, the bike didn't turn up. He bought a gun because he thought he was, the Stasi would be coming after him, which they usually did.
Yes, they certainly did.
But the bike never even left Heathrow.
Yeah.
And Ehrlich was sort of screaming and shouting, but they reckon that was all kind of, the East German government and the Stasi making stuff happen, making sure that Degner didn't win the championship,
Yeah, very probably. And on the story for many years was that Degner blew the bike up and left the circuit.
Yeah.
And your book, that was tosh.
You know, I spooked 3-4 people that were in the hotel that night. With Degner, you know, having dinner and all that stuff. So
proper journalism, more than one source.
Exactly.
And let's, MZs were very, very fragile.
Yeah.
Even Luigi Taveri said they were impossible. He very rarely finished on one.
Sure. I mean, they were still air-cooled, and an air-cooled two-stroke is a dangerous thing because they get so hot and all the different metals expand at different rates. So, you know, an MZ obviously had pretty rubbish metals because they couldn't... I mean... Cardinal would send people, again, before the wall was put up, he would send people to the West to bring back sort of suitcases full of aluminium and stuff. But the other amazing thing was when they tried to do the get his wife and kids out of Berlin twice. The first time, literally, they were in Berlin on the night of August the 14th, or 1961, ready to go the next day. And at midnight that night is when the East Germans sealed off the border to start building the East German Wall, the Berlin Walls. So how this little story, really, in what is a massive, great story, kind of dovetail with actual events was just mental, you know?
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at Accenture.com/Spotify.
This summer, soccer is here, and so are the watch parties. And Uber Eats has your game day essentials covered. Everything you need to keep your crowd happy, delivered straight to your door. Get wings, pizza, chips, dips, fresh ingredients, and more. Keep the soccer going and all your game day essentials flowing. Order in so you can lock in for the games. Only on Uber Eats for a limited time.
It's a wonderful microcosm of the utter insanity of the Cold War years.
And also,
we all thought we were quite possibly we were going to die next week.
No, absolutely. Well, you think Bay of Pigs was the following year, and Khrushchev and Kennedy were sort of, you know, shouting and screaming at each other. I mean, you know, everything was very on the edge, very on the edge. I mean, it really might all have ended there and there, you know. But and then obviously the what happened, you know, with, you know, the Japanese, although Honda were making 4 strokes, you know, Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki were all making 2 strokes. The majority of Japanese motorbikes over the next 2 decades were 2 strokes, you know, and that all came from Carden, because as soon as Suzuki had nicked it, you know, all the Japanese have spies in each other's factories. As soon as Suzuki are using this technology, you know, somebody tells Yamaha what's going on, somebody tells Kawasaki what's going on, that suddenly they've all got pretty much the same bikes, you know?
Yeah. And the next year he brought his and Suzuki's first world title. What, I think, was it the first year of the 50s or the second?
It was. So it was a little, so he helped Suzuki build a 50cc 2-stroke for the first year of the 50cc World Championship, which was born in 62 to try and, because of the moped craze. And also a 125, and the 125 was pretty good, but the 50 was you know, easily the best thing. So he won Suzuki's first Grand Prix, he won Suzuki's first TT, and he won Suzuki's first World Championship. You know, and the first 2-stroke World Championship. You know, so pretty important.
15 wins I think he had, but it hasn't got a happy ending, the story, as far as he's concerned, is it? No.
And that's another weird thing, is that it all kind of went right for him until he won the championship. And then he started having, you know, obviously you could get very badly hit. Well, you were more likely to be killed than badly hurt in those days. Because, you know, if you hit a wall at 100 miles an hour, you were generally dead. But he had he had 2 or 3 big accidents, massive, you know, he was crashed at Suzuka on the Suzuki Square 250 Square 4, which burst into flames. He was in the flames, horribly disfigured, smashed his femur. got massive head injury when he moved to Kawasaki and became addicted to painkillers and died of a heart attack in Tenerife. He did various other jobs and so on. I don't think he was very happy at all, became addicted to painkillers, probably morphine, because that's generally what they used back then, which is very addictive. Died in Tenerife of a heart attack. Again, the rumours that the Stasi killed him, but he died of a heart attack.
For years, can I emphasise that, Matt?
Yeah.
The received wisdom was that the Stasi got it.
Yeah.
But this, again, is bollocks, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he died of a heart attack. His father died of a heart attack, and his eldest son, Olaf, had a heart attack at 48. So I think you can deduce from that they had a genetic predisposition towards heart problems. But he didn't have a happy end to his life, definitely. I mean, he just went from job to job, split up with his wife. I think he had a pretty shit time, to be honest, poor bugger. But he did I have no problem with him defecting to a better life. Good on him.
Oh, good golly.
Obviously, he did basically nick all of Carden's secrets, and Carden was the guy that had made him, basically. So he did kind of massively screw over Carden, who was obviously dragged in by the Stasi to kind of saying, did you have any? And basically, it basically killed MZ's racing project largely because they weren't really allowed to compete. They weren't allowed to compete in the full World Championship anymore.
Is that right?
And Carden, the quick sideline, was universally respected and liked.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Unconditionally by everybody, foe and friend.
Exactly.
And Carden did take it personally. Not that somebody had defected, but that he'd take our work, I think.
Exactly, yeah. You make something good and people steal it. That's what he said, The weird thing was, I think 64, a British rider called Alan Shepard,
yes, I remember
went to Daytona with an MZ 250. How he got it is just insane. He had to go and pick it up from the East German side of the border at something and then drive it back, and his van broke down. But somehow they got it to Daytona. But the thing was a disaster. It wouldn't run or anything. So he had to call up East Germany, which the Americans wouldn't allow. And somehow he managed to make it happen. And he had like a minute or whatever, and Carden said, right, this is what you do. This is the compression ratio that you need. These are the jets you need. This is the needle jet you need. And, in like 1 minute. And Shepard did it all and won the race. You know what I mean? So I mean, just story after story after story.
It just comes more and more and more. Yeah.
It was the bike that made Gary Hocking as well. Took him to the notice of Carden. I think I'm right in saying that said Hocking. His ability to tell what was going on with the machine was absolutely supernatural.
Yeah.
And and Hocking had never ridden a two-stroke, and he got on it.
No.
Net cylinders running rough. This is doing that. This is.
Yeah.
I'm knocked out by this story. I'm knocked out by your book as well, Matt. I just think it's just unbelievable. And as you say, going to the Sachsenring just makes you.
Yeah. And you think about Barry Sheene. Yeah. He won the two world championships on Suzuki RG 500s, and the RG 500 was a square 4 disc valve 500, right? So it had 4 disc valve 125 cylinders in a square format. They were basically MZ 125 cylinders, obviously water cooled and sort of updated.
Of course.
What Barry Sheene basically won on was 4 Suzuki 4 MZ 125s. The Kawasaki Twin. The tandem twin KR250 and 350 that ruled the smaller classes in the late 70s, early 80s. That was a copy of the MZ tandem twin, Carden's 250 tandem twin. So everyone was just copying all this stuff that he'd done. So Kawasaki lived off it, or Suzuki lived off it, Kawasaki lived off it. I mean, and Yamaha, they were all basically, he would have just been sitting there just watching everyone win races with his technology. I mean, God, it must have been pretty mad.
Must have been pretty grim for him.
And he still managed to be a nice bloke, according to all
exactly.
And I think that is absolutely a lovely underline to the whole thing. It's the genius of Walter Carr.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
That we should remember.
I wish I'd met him. I remember when the wall came down, Matt McDiarmid, a fellow journalist, a good friend of ours, he went there because he knew the story and he went there in 1990, I think, to interview Carden. Obviously, Jan Leek.
As soon as the wall came down.
Jan Leek, the Swedish journalist, he went at the same time. And I was very lucky that they both allowed me to kind of use some words from the interviews that they'd done with him. But I mean, they were just, as soon as that wall came down, they were like, we're going to Carden. You know? And I wouldn't have even heard of him then, probably. Maybe just. But
Fight magazine published McDiarmid's interview under the headline, An Interview with God.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, Matt, thanks. And look, while we've got you on, we've got to think about present day. We're coming up to the summer break at the Sachsenring, and people like me, and I think Jules will agree, there's so much going on in MotoGP. We can't. Rider changes. It all seems to happen long before halfway through the season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the biggest year of rider changes. It's just ridiculous. I mean, pretty much the whole grid is changing manufacturers next year. And at the same time, we're having new bikes, new tyres. And so next year, it could be, some people say the 850s are going to create better racing. Some people say they're not so sure. That obviously when you change rules substantially like they are now, I mean, it's the biggest rule change ever. They've never changed aerodynamic rules, engine rules, chassis rules all at the same time. Never.
No.
But the danger is then that one factory gets it right and the rest don't, and one factory goes charging off into the distance and everybody else is trying to catch up. But I mean, it's I guess we're expecting Marc Marquez to win at Sachsenring this weekend, but will he? You just don't know. But I mean, I'm glad he's back in it, because it's a bit like when Doohan got injured. For a couple of years after that, you didn't really feel like the racing was amazing because he wasn't stretching out the pack. But you just thought, well, this isn't real because Doohan's not there. You know what I mean? And when Mark isn't there, you just feel, if the best guy isn't there, it doesn't really, it feels a bit empty, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
And you still traveling the world. We've stopped for various reasons. Still enjoy it as much as you ever did?
Yeah. I mean, the traveling gets harder, and I'm going to 9 races out of 22 this year, so still doing nearly half.
I think that's
I think I'm not far away from having had enough, to be honest. I've been doing it. This is my 39th season, so
On that note, Nick, 2-minute warning to Nick Speedway.
Can I just put a plug in for my book?
You most certainly come out. That's what,
It's great timing because I've just ordered. Guy Martin chose it as his book to take to the.
And you had a tear in your eye, didn't you? I think you deserve that.
I had dollar signs in my eye. That's what I had. So I just thought, well, I'll get another reprint done. So the books are meant to be turning up in about a week, and you can order it from my website, which is Matt Oxley Big Cartel. Just Google that, and you'll find it.
Brilliant.
Sorry for the plug, but
is it in the garage and the local post office now?
Any moment now, they're going to be delivering 2 pallets of boxes of books, of pristine books. I love it. Yeah. And so lots of visits to the post office.
I've got to check my second-hand auto-jumble stock because I used to get a lot of money for old copies. That's torpedoed the value of the
sorry, Jules
book, but no, hey, I think I'm out.
You got a good plug-in and an amazing career, Matt. With everything else, TT winner as well, and that story. I honestly, it just going where you're going this weekend is so special.
I've got a production company meant to be making a film out of it, but they've had the rights for about 9 years. And
I remember you telling me when I was in the paddock. That's right.
But
this happens.
The movie business is way beyond my pay grade, so I don't really bother too much about it.
We've got a bit more of that next week, Nick. We're about to run out of time.
Right, Matt. Thank you so much, and good luck for the rest of the season with continued sales of the book.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. Thanks, Julian.
Wow, the Sachsenring, that ride from the Autobahn, the Guthrie Memorial that Matt was talking about. I remember, I think there's flowers placed on that still every week by somebody. Everybody thinks that Jimmy Guthrie was killed in the Isle of Man because there's the Guthrie Memorial, isn't it? But actually, It was at the Sachsenring. I didn't know there was a memorial to Bill Ivy. I must say, he was one of my absolute heroes when I was growing up as a motorcycle racer. And
I didn't.
The MZ story alone was enough.
Yeah,
that would do very nicely. Thanks, Matt. And then the Degner story.
And I cannot emphasize for anybody out there who's sort of under our age, or that this was this strange, oppressive, divided Europe.
Yeah.
To you and me as young men was completely normal.
Yeah, it was. And what working for Dorna, I won't say any names, but two of the girls I worked with in the media side, one came from East Germany, very near the Sachsenring, and the other came from the Czechoslovakia, now of course the Czech Republic. And everything that Matt said, the book said, they'd already told me. It's exactly how it was. Yeah.
If you wanted to listen to Western music or TV, how the shenanigans you had to, and the risk you had to run.
Yeah, and certainly in East Germany, I believe the spying on families within small groups or villages was quite terrifying. Yeah.
I think Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia as was slightly more, the population wasn't quite as cooperative, shall we put it that way?
No, that's right, yeah. And how interesting, we had Randy on 2-3 weeks ago saying that so many East Germans, it was Czechoslovakia was the only country they were allowed to travel to.
Without a visa.
Without a visa. And so hundreds and thousands of them came to there, and of course hundreds of thousands went to the Sachsenring. And there's so many stories. John Brown, dear old John Brown of motorcycling, he told me he went there once in a white Rolls Royce driven by Phil Reed. He said it caused quite a stir.
And everybody's been talking about spending 4 or 5 hours at the border. Checo. Dennis Moyes claims that he was waiting for 4 or 5 hours, and a limousine swept up carrying Italian and Czech flags, didn't stop, went straight through. Aggo.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
This episode is brought to you by Perfect Bistro Cat Food. Cats, this ad is for you. Has your human ever called you picky, persnickety, choosy? If so, Perfect Bistro Cat Food is for you. With ingredients like wild-caught tuna and pasture-raised lamb, tantalizing textures, and delectable flavors that meet even the most discerning cat standards. You're not picky, you're just perfectionists. Perfect Bistro, mealtime perfection for every cat. Have your human visit perfectbistro.com.
Yeah.
I do hope that's true,
Well, yeah. Thank you, Matt Oxley. Well, what a super journalist, a super guy, and super motorcycle racer, TT winner and endurance racer.
Excuse me, Nick. I was going to add super writer, because if you think the subject matter is a bit heavy and political, do not worry. His writing style is very light and easily approachable. Take his advice. Get the book. And I think if you don't like big words or even short words, I think you've still got some of the graphic novel version.
Yeah.
So there is, and if you call yourself a fan of motorcycle racing and you're interested in any way in its heritage, history, or whatever, it is a book that is
you have to read.
You have to read. There's no other phrase for it.
Well, we brought Matt on this week, probably a week early, because it was the Sachsenring. We felt it was right. Marie Kofod with the women in racing, which is as equally as interesting, poignant, tells you so much. We're going to have on next week now because the summer break's coming up in MotoGP, and we think it's absolutely perfect. And may I assure you, if you found Matt Oxley interesting, you will find Marie's Women in Racing right from the word go right up to the present day. So interesting and such an important part of history once again.
Absolutely. And she is a professional TV producer, feature film producer, I beg her pardon, and has turned her attention to women in racing and is making her first documentary on this.
That's right. And we look forward to that. So don't forget your tickets, motorsport.tickets.com, Formula One. I was going to say the TT, of course, TT's over now. MotoGP, Formula One, World Superbikes. That's where you get your tickets from. The Q code will be coming up on the screen, and it does help us. And your subscribing, general help really keeps this program going, doesn't it, Jules?
It keeps us up with the algorithms, and it's just. I'm not saying you have not the subscription where you have to pay, although that is also welcome for the Paddock Club. But just click on, I want to know when the new pod's out, subscribe, and you help us enormously.
Yeah. And if you have any ideas or, I think Randy Mamola is very keen to come back on, and you got questions for Randy, that would do. And any ideas as well. We're open to everything because we have to rack our brains sometimes.
With the summer break coming up as well. We're having a film producer on to talk about another project. We're going for slightly more left field subjects, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's exactly right.
So, we do value your suggestions.
Yeah, we certainly do. Thanks again, Jules. My God, I enjoyed that. And I wouldn't mind being at the Sachsenring, driving through those woods. I'm almost closing my eyes now past the Guthrie Memorial, because you close your eyes, you can hear those MZ two-strokes revving, can't you, in the distance?
Yeah, and then suddenly stopping as they seize. But, as Luigi Taveri would say. But it's, the Sachsenring, I agree completely with what Matt Oxley said and what you said. It's like going to Monza.
Yes.
You are walking in history. The ghosts are all there.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, 0 tears.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.